Have you ever felt like you've tried everything to heal from the pain of sexual abuse, and yet nothing seems to really be helping? Well, one of the reasons why most people struggle to break free from the pain of past child abuse is because the techniques out there are positioned as a one-size-fits-all answer. What I want you to know is that there are actually 3 distinct phases on the path to recovery, and I'd love to share with you about these phases, what issues you must resolve to move to the next phase, and what kinds of support you'll need in order to move forward as quickly and completely as possible. The road to recovery is much easier when you know what stage you're in and what to do next. So don't hesitate. Go to www.rachelgrantcoaching.com/checklist and get your 9-page guide today. Now, on to our show. Welcome everyone to Beyond Surviving, the safe space for survivors of childhood sexual abuse to receive support, resources, and share their stories. Beyond Surviving is about freedom, healing, connection, and even laughter and fun. Most importantly, it's about letting go of the pain of abuse and finally moving on. I'm Rachel Grant, and for those of you who don't yet know me, I've been a sexual abuse recovery coach since 2007, and I'm the author of Beyond Surviving, the final stage of recovery from sexual abuse. I work with survivors who are sick and tired of feeling broken and unfixable. You can learn more about me and the Beyond Surviving program at rachelgrantcoaching.com. Today, our wonderful guest is Adina Bank-Lees, and I'm really happy to have Adina here because not only is she just an amazing woman and practitioner and advocate for survivors, but she's also a dear colleague and is working with me in lots of fun endeavors. We may talk about that, we may not, but she's really going to be here today talking with us about covert emotional incest. This is such an important topic and something that sometimes goes under the radar, but is a very important form of abuse that people are dealing with out there. So we're going to talk about what that is and how family dynamics, really can generate this type of abuse, and some strategies or skills that can really help you move forward and out of this surviving and into really thriving. So Adina, welcome.
Thanks, Rachel. Great to be with you today. So glad we get an opportunity to do this.
Yeah. So, one of the things that when we first connected and I started learning more about the work you do, really learning about this concept of covert emotional incest. So, maybe you can start out by, first of all, just telling us a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit about your journey, and then really define what covert emotional incest is for us.
Okay, absolutely. Well, my journey. So one of the things that's really important in my journey is early on, say it was 1990 or 91, I had a clinical supervisor. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and my specialty area is working with survivors and people who want to be thrivers who've experienced abuse. And he asked me, why did you get into the field in the first place? And my immediate reaction was, because I want to help people. And he looked me in the face and he said, I'll say something nicer than he said to me. He said, I don't believe you, try again. And so I spent some time really thinking about that and reflecting on it and being in my own therapy, actually, which I've been on and off since I was 14, around issues like this has been critical for my healing. And so all of this, looking at it, what I came up with, Rachel, was that the real reason I went into the field of social work, in particular the specialty area that I did, was because I couldn't fix my own family. And I had tried from when I was a kid. I tried to fix my mother, my father individually and whatever was going on with them. I tried to fix their marriage. And make everybody happy, and it did not work. I wasn't successful. And so what I realized was that I was carrying this blood that I thought if I could fix other people, if I could work with them and they could be happy and I could fix them, that black hole would go away, would get filled up, and then I would really be okay, and I'd be okay with myself. Because I had this belief, due to my experience of covert emotional incest that we'll be talking about, the dynamic that gets set up where my job is to be the substitute spouse of one or both of my parents to meet their emotional needs, and I want to say emotional sexual needs, again, we'll clarify that in a little bit, was that set it up that, wow, I can't do that. I'm a failure. I can meet it sometimes, but I don't make them happy all the time, and I can't fix them. So there's something wrong with me, and there must be something wrong with me, and the only way to have relationship is to be there to fix and solve other people and their, other people's problems. So quite a setup, and it was quite a setup, and it was quite a revelation for me to realize that that's what was going on, and it made so much sense because what I found myself doing as the professional was I was getting really frustrated with people who weren't taking my suggestions, doing their homework assignments. They weren't getting quote unquote better as fast as they should get better. And so all of that, what we call countertransference in the field, all of my reactions to the clients was so much steeped in my own issues and what had been going on for me. And that was such an epiphany and a clearing out. It was like, oh my goodness, of course. So if I really still want to be in this field, I cannot be expecting anyone to change. I can't be expecting to fix anybody. This is not about me trying to fill my hole, It can't be, it can't be that. And so it was life-changing for me personally and definitely career-wise. And I practice very, very different today. I am not an expert. When somebody walks in my office, I am a guide and I walk along with them. I know you do a lot of this with coaching. I think the thing that makes it different me as a psychotherapist is that I think we do more work around family of origin and some more intensity and kind of stuff that you wouldn't do in a coaching perspective. And we do some more history things and more emotional release work. But in terms of I'm the doctor, you're the patient, I'm going to fix you, no, not at all.
Nice.
I know people are experts on themselves, and I have life experience, I have professional experience. I can be a guide, and I can be a witness. I have to say that witnessing and allowing people to just be who they are, be in their feelings, allow them to say their truth, and being able to stay present, breathe, stay present, feel your feelings. As I wrote in the Ride the Wave piece on the blog that you were so generous to let me guest blog on, such a critical piece for people to heal, and that's very different than fixing somebody.
Thanks, Adina. Yeah, just to give us a little glimpse into your journey, certainly, and finding your way to, where you are now, and how in the midst of that, it sounds like you started to notice that as a result of the family you grew up in and the dynamics that were there, that you had experienced a type of abuse that often I think people don't even know exists. Maybe you didn't even know it existed or have a name for it at the time when you were starting to sort it out. So let's explore this a bit more for our listeners who maybe have never heard this term, covert emotional sexual incest. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely, and thank you. Yes, I had no idea what was going on. So covert emotional incest. When a child is made as to be a substitute spouse or confidant for one or both of their parents. So, for example, for me, I heard things like, I can't talk to your mother like this. She just doesn't understand me the way you do. I heard from my mother, you know what, I can't talk to your father like this. He doesn't get it. I'm so frustrated. How can we get him to behave? How can we get him to behave such and such a way?
Oh, boy.
And I feel so much better when I talk to you. How do you know so much? You're so young. So if anybody's listening and they've heard those kinds of things, whether as a kid or even still as an adult, and this is really an important point, because you can say, oh, it's so obvious that you wouldn't want an 8-year-old, you wouldn't want your mother or father to talk to you like that as an 8-year-old. Pretty obvious that that's not okay. But, all right, I'm 54 now, and I'm an adult. And so why can't my mother be my best friend, and she can share all her stuff about my father, and I can share my stuff about my spouse, and why can't that be? That's two adults. And what I say, and this goes to the heart of the definition of covert emotional incest and why it's abuse, is that spousal role. So what am I talking about? Is a violation of the parent and child relationship. And it's a sexual violation. So what am I talking about? Well, the parent-child relationship, the parent is supposed to be there to meet the child's needs. The child is not there to meet the parent's needs. That is the normal, developmental, healthy setup.
Right.
Okay. In covert emotional incest, this gets flipped around, and the child ends up being there to meet the parent's needs.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we call it incest? Why do we call it sexual abuse? Because the spousal role is a sexual role, whether there's physical sex happening or not. It carries sexual energy, and it's not tangible. I can't, but it's there, and it's picked up by the child, and it's confusing. And the child doesn't know what to make of it. And I can say to you as an adult that still can experience this at times in my family of origin relationships, it still is confusing to me when it's happening with all I know about it and all I'm writing about it and I'm teaching about it. But when it's actually happening, I go into this place of being this little kid and I get confused again. Yeah. And then I have to use my support, which I know you work with people on in your coaching, and this is what I do too. We can't be in a thriving mode without a support system.
For sure.
So I use my support. It's one of the things that I know, and I want to say to your listeners, like, numero uno, you get people who you can talk to, whether it be Rachel as your coach, somebody as a professional therapist. If you don't have friends right now or people who are also issue or other issues that you can speak to, but to be able to have somebody say, wait a second, am I crazy? Is this real? What's happening? I need a reality check. Can you just listen to me for a little bit? I just need somebody to hold the space for me. It's critical for that. So I'm going to come back. So spousal role, sexual role, whether there's physical sex happening or not, doesn't matter whether you're 8 or you're 55. As the child, you're always in the daughter or son role, and your parent is always in the parent role. So it's not okay for the parent to be putting the child in that confidant or spousal position. And I want a kind of a caveat, which is, as we know that our parents are living longer, as we are, and at 54, I'm in the sandwich generation. I have an aging mother, and I have a young adult son. And I have a young adult son. So when I'm having this aging mother, there are things that are happening where I sometimes have had to take over and make some decisions medically, et cetera.
Right.
That's a really tough place to be. People have to do that. Parents have dementia. They get really sick. You're a power of attorney. You have to make decisions for them. Maybe you have to pay bills for them. And you're saying, wait a second, who's the parent and who's the child? That's not what I'm talking about here. Okay, that's a horrendous role reversal. We are impacted by it. We need to get support for it. It's very important that you get support for that. More and more of us, as we age, will be in that role.
Yeah.
I'm talking about when that does not have to happen, and a parent is using their child or adult child as their confidant instead of being to their spouse and or a peer to get that emotional support.
So, Adina, thank you for defining that for us and clarifying, what it really looks like. And I think the distinction that you're making, that this can occur whether you're, an adolescent or an adult child, is the same. The boundaries we want those boundaries to be healthy, and the expectations and the roles to be defined. When you were young and this was occurring in your life, what do you recall about how it felt in the moment? I'm guessing, I'm just curious about that, because my sense is that it might feel on one hand like empowering or satisfying to be called upon in that way by your parent. And there might be like gratification or a feeling of being important, but then there's probably a flip side to that of, negative consequences of being about it, and then what felt, hard or difficult.
Of course. Yes, of course. And you put it beautifully. So it is a double-edged sword. The bigger the front, the bigger the back, as my dear friend Sonny used to say. So yes, I felt special. I felt privileged. I felt chosen. I felt powerful. Wow, they see me as so much more mature, and wow, I can make them smile, and wow, I can make them feel better. Yeah, absolutely. And it's very seductive. I'm using that word for a reason, because it is very seductive to be able to feel like you have that much power and that you can please your parent that much. And the closeness that you feel with that parent, not knowing that that's not a healthy boundaried relationship. And the flip side of that is the powerlessness and helplessness that I felt when I couldn't fix them, when nothing really changed, when I felt the torn loyalty, when I was asked to keep secrets, and I felt, oh my God, I love my mom so much, but I love my dad too. Can I love them both at the same time? How do I have a relationship with them both at the same time? Are one of them going to be mad at me if they find out I was talking to them about the other? So they're very confused and very, very torn. So I had a lot of anxiety as a kid. And I know now that I could say I also showed signs of depression. I was more of the anxious kind and very perfectionistic, thinking that if I just got everything perfect, it would be okay and I could breathe. So I'd say that's, stomach turning and inside shaking often.
Yeah. I can only imagine, it's to be placed in that position and to not be, to not know any better. How would you? You're a child, so you're taking your cues from your parents or from your caregivers and basing your assumptions about how things are supposed to look or feel from that, and then to find yourself in such conflict. How did that affect you later in your life, as an adult, in your relationships? What did you notice was hard or difficult as a result of having gone through that experience in childhood?
Well, I think it has been and continues. I don't want to give any false hopes. The fact that this is something that continues on. It doesn't go away. It gets better. So a continued challenge for me in intimate relationship is being able and have the balance of caring for myself as well as my partner, rather than just giving myself up and just only taking care of and focusing on my partner, for example.
Right.
And, if my partner is displeased with me because I'm saying, well, I'd like to do this or I'm going to do that, what my little girl inside hears, if my partner gets angry with that, is, you see, you're not entitled to have what you want and what you need. You are only here to take care of this person.
Mm-hmm.
That, there's a lot of healing that I've done, Rachel, and it is so much better. But that wound for me has never gone away. I handle it much better. It doesn't get triggered as often. There's much more time in my life I'm in thriving versus surviving, but I can get kicked often. There's much more time in my life I'm in thriving versus surviving, but I can get kicked into survival mode especially with my spouse, because that is the person, and I'm a believer of this. This is my philosophy and what I've been trained in couples work and attachments is just what I believe, is that when we are with this intimate partner, our very worst nightmares are going to get triggered for each other. Mm-hmm. We're gonna be challenged to grow, and we're going to be challenged to heal. And so this is an area that I know over time comes up for me, and it's another opportunity to do more healing, to take really good care of myself, and to find a consistent balance of it's okay for me to take care of me, and I want to be in relationship with someone else as well, but not give myself away. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. I think that's something I can relate to as a survivor. There's a lot of course, things we have in common. Yes. Abuse leads to, regardless of type, can lead to very common, similar outcomes. And so, and I love that you're, so generous with yourself in that space of I'm constantly, growing and achieving more and feeling better and moving to greater and greater levels of being able to stay out of those survivor states, as you mentioned, but, giving yourself grace in those moments where something does pop up. And it sounds like you have a really great toolkit for supporting yourself in those moments, as well as, using outside support, as you talked about earlier. What would you say are some key skills that have really led to that thriving and not just surviving in your life?
I want to answer that, and if I could, I want to just put that on the slide for just a second, because I'm watching time. I know we're coming close, but I want to add something else to the covert emotional incest definition that we didn't cover.
Okay.
That I think is really critical, if that's okay.
Of course.
Okay. So it's being the substitute or surrogate spouse and confidant, very, very important. The other piece for me was the objectification of my body, the keen focus on my body, so that my body wasn't mine, it was somebody else's. And in this particular situation, it was my mother and my father's, and they had their different ways of owning my body in terms of their comments and direction and beliefs. And I just want to throw out one piece, which was, the message I got was the only way for me to have worth was to look a certain way, and that certain way was going to be sexually attractive to a person of the opposite sex. And who defined what that looked like was my father. Mm-hmm. And my father happened to like either very voluptuous, like a Sophia Loren, Marilyn Monroe type of body, or a very anorexically thin waif type of body. And so that's what I grew up as like, okay, so in order for me to have any worth, I have to look like this. Mm-hmm. And I have to expect that men are going to comment on my body, and I have to like it and be flattered rather than feel violated and slimed by it.
Wow, yeah.
And that was really hard because I felt violated and slimed by it, and I could never get to the part where I felt flattered by it. So I always felt like I wasn't doing that right either. Mm-hmm. So that was, there was a lot of piece about being objectified. Sexual abuse, physical sexual abuse survivors know about this. Your body's not your own. You're outside of your body because your body's not safe. We could go, I don't want to go on and on and on about that, but this is a very important piece.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
That, yeah.
Yeah, these experiences, of course, they shape so much of how we perceive ourselves and what we are, think is to be expected and what's normal or what's appealing. Yeah, thank you for bringing that into the conversation. I think it is a really important point for people who are listening to notice that a lot of times, the way we conceptualize ourselves or a variety of things is so informed by the preferences of the people who abused us. And I think a big part of that healing journey is separating that out and coming to really understand what is us and understand what is us and our own and what we like and what's for us, and away from, those imposed perspectives or attitudes. kind of like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. The last thing I'll say, then I'll go to the skills and the tools. Another piece that I'm seeing a lot with people that they're not aware of that this is abusive to them is
Right.
the very highly charged sexual content that they're experiencing in their families. And so I'm talking about things like parents watching pornography or reading pornography with kids, happening, on the internet a lot now, and being voyeured. Worked with a client who was voyeured on a regular basis by her father, and she knew that her two sisters had been physically molested by him, but what she said to me, so I had to educate her, molested by him, but what she said to me was, he never touched me, so I wasn't sexually abused. I don't understand why I can't establish a healthy, intimate relationship.
Right.
It didn't happen to me. And so I had to educate her about how she didn't have to be physically touched for it to have happened to her.
Yeah.
So I just want to, again, for your listeners, I want people to hear that you don't have to be physically touched to have had that sexual boundary violation and to be abused in that way. The inappropriate sexual content is sexualizing and violating, et cetera, et cetera. So if I made that clear, we can go on to the skills.
I think it's an important thing to say and say again, because I see in my Facebook group, Healing from Sexual Abuse, that there are lots of questions like that. This only this happened, and it's not this thing that you don't have to. There's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of experience, and it doesn't mean that one is worse than another. It's just that, we fall into this trap that you're naming. So it is good for us to reiterate that for people so they can really understand that their experience, whatever their experience is, matters. It has an impact, and you can get healing around that, of course.
Yes. So there is a solution. There is healing, there is a way out. And that's one of the things I love about you, is because that's what you're focused on. You're focused on there is a solution. So for me, I think number one is to have a context and a name for what's happened and what's happening. That, for me, my anxiety dropped so significantly when I was given this term CEI, Covert Emotional Incest. I was like, oh, so somebody on your Facebook group gets an answer of like, of course, this makes total sense, your experience. Thank you, So that's a huge anxiety reducer right there, and a validator, so that I can be in my body enough. And this is big for your listeners. What we know neurobiologically now, and I know you know this, Rachel, is that I need to have my body at kind of a stable place in order to think and feel at the same time.
Right.
And that's when I can grow and do my healing. Because if I am in fear, I'm either fighting, I'm fleeing, or I'm frozen. So I'm either living in my head because my body's not safe and I'm cut off, or I'm so in my body and it's so activated that my left brain doesn't have enough blood flow in it and I can't make any rational decisions. I can't be healing there. So when you say skills, it's, okay, what are my self-soothing skills? How do I keep my body regulated? That's the nervous system regulation. It can't be healing there. So when you say skills, it's, okay, what are my self-soothing skills? How do I keep my body regulated? That's the nervous system regulation, is the big therapy term now. So how do I do that? Well, I use something, it doesn't cost anything, and I can take it anywhere I want, and it's called breathing.
Right.
So, to deep and slow breathing, I breathe in for 4 through my nose, I hold it for 2, and I breathe out through my nose for 6. Other people, yoga people do all kinds of things. This is just what I do, and this is what I, do with my clients. The breathing in my nose gets me the cleanest breath, gets me the breath that goes to all areas of my brain to calm down my brain. If I breathe in through my mouth, that's fear breathing. That's telling my brain that there's danger. So I'll start hyperventilating. So I keep my mouth closed, which is a good thing for me. It's a good thing. And so I breathe through my nose, I hold, and then I let go slowly, and everything starts to calm down. And it takes a while because my brain is very active, and it's okay for the listener. Our brains are active. That's what they're supposed to do. So I just keep coming back to counting. I'm in for 4, hold for 2, out for 6. And when I'm calmer, then I can reach out for help. Or sometimes, I'll just say this morning, for example, I had something difficult emotionally happen, and now my automatic is to pick up the phone and call somebody for support. It used to be picking up a drink and picking up other things. That's not what I do now. I pick up the phone for support. So I did that, and my person on the other line, we breathed together.
Nice. Yeah.
And my body calmed down. And then, so tools, breathing, reaching out for help. I do this thing they call the butterfly hug. So I put my arms around me, and my hands are just around, on the sides, around my bra line, and I alternate my hands going back and forth slowly. I can take this anywhere again. I like portable tools.
Right.
So I'm just doing, I don't have to buy anything. I could be in the airport. I travel a lot. It doesn't matter. And I'm just sitting, I was doing this with my family this week. Nobody knows what I'm doing. Yeah. And I'm just slowly doing that. And what I know is that it helps calm me down. And there is a neurobiological piece to this we don't have to go into, but it helps the left and the right brain speak to each other and calm. And that, for me, is the biggest piece. Yeah. Calm. Ask for help. Reach out for help. And I think the last thing I'll say is another piece for me that's been so helpful is the self-compassion piece. When I got it that there was this little kid at 3 and 5 and 7 and 10 and 15 and a young adult that went through this. And I could feel for that part of me. Rather than come on, I used to say to myself, come on, you should know better, and I just talk nasty to myself. But when I had my son, Rachel, and I could see this other human being who was so innocent and, in no way could have done anything different as an infant and at 3 and 5 and 10.
That's right.
And I was so innocent and, in no way could have done anything different as an infant and at 3 and 5 and 10.
That's right.
And I went, oh my God, that was me.
Right.
That was me.
Yeah.
So I'm parenting myself now. When these things happen, I visually see, and I have pictures of myself as little around my house so that I could develop this relationship with these parts of me and parent them the way I always wanted to be parented. And this has taken time. So this didn't happen in 5 days. I mean, this is years now. Right. But what's happened is I hold myself. I hold these parts. Honey, it's okay. You're safe. It's good. I talk to myself as I would have talked to my son. And that, Rachel, has been just the icing on the cake. It's something I'll have with me for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Adina. That's so important. Yeah. I love so much of what you just shared there. First of all, that their strategy's simple. They seem so simple, but they have such a huge impact, an immediate impact, right? And being able to help us recalibrate our system, ground, reconnect, and being able to access that anywhere, anytime, any place is so important. And I also love the reminder that, we need people, we need allies, and in our lives. So whatever that looks like for you, having a person or a forum or a place where you can go in those moments so that you're not isolating and trying to do it all on your own, it's such a trap we survivors can fall into. So, thank you for those reminders and that self-compassion piece. Oh, it's so huge, and to just remember and do our best to remember that we were little and we were not at choice about these things, and we were doing the best we could with the resources we had, and to offer tenderness to those parts of ourselves, and that we can give, we can heal those parts of ourselves by giving that tenderness and support that we didn't receive at the time, right now.
Exactly.
So great. Well, Adina, I'm so thankful to have had this time with you today. I love all the tips that you've given our listeners, and just thank you for being my guest. Please share with us your website and how people can get in touch with you.
Fantastic. Thank you. So the website is www.adena, ADENA, Bank, BANK, Lees, LEE, as in Sam.com. And on that website, you'll see some videos. I also have a YouTube channel. I made about an 8-minute video on YouTube channel. I made about an 8-minute video on Covert Emotional Incest, so feel free to take a look at that. It gives you kind of a snapshot of things. And I'm penning a book right now. The working title is Maybe I'm Not Crazy After All. And we're writing it as an educational memoir, which means it's my story demonstrating and illustrating covert emotional incest, and it's infused with psychological theory, and so you have some terms and you get some explanation of things. Awesome. But mostly it's self-contained stories in there about what is it, what happened, and what it's like now.
And can people get on a wait list for that, or a way to be notified when it's out?
If they send me an email through my website, then they can definitely do that.
Okay.
And we're hoping this summer, but it's going to be a little later than that. They can also go to my website and sign up for my e-letter. I do a monthly e-letter where it's information about abuse and related things, and I will definitely be sharing about my book on the e-letter. Okay. And the last thing I'll say is that I have written a small self-help booklet, I call it, and it's called The 12 Healing Steps for Adult Survivors of Childhood Sexual Abuse. And it's for anybody who is familiar with a 12-step program, because I have a lot of my clients who are recovering addicts, and the 12-step program has been very helpful for them. And then in their recovery, they come upon trauma issues. And so if the 12-step framework has worked for them, this has been helpful to apply that to the sexual abuse recovery that they're looking at next. So if anybody, might be interested in that, that's on the website. It's also available through Amazon, and it's cheap. It's $10. So.
Okay. All right. Wow. So many wonderful, wonderful resources. So folks, please pop over to Adena's website and check out all of those wonderful resources. And as always, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and listening today and joining us. And don't forget to visit RachelGrantCoaching.com as well to learn more about sexual abuse recovery coaching and check out the resources that are there. And please be sure to subscribe to this podcast and comment. And we have so much more to share with you. So tune in again next time. And until then, take really good care of you. Adina, have a really wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again.
Thank you, Rachel. Take good care.